No? Hey, everybody. I'm Shane.
I'm Kris.
Lex is out on vacation, and so is JJ. So we've got, instead of JJ manning everything, we've got Kelly and Annie.
You basically have the B team, basically, today.
Welcome to the JV. Welcome to the JV squad.
Yes.
Anyway,
All right, your camera one.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Are we still having some issues with displaying the questions?
We are.
Okay, so you got your questions that you submitted. Kelly's just going to read them out, and Kris and I are going to actually have to pay attention instead of ignoring him. We usually have him on auto tune out.
Yeah, as does my wife. It's a lovely thing. All right, question number 1 today. It's coming from Darren S. He asks, is there a reason why we can't put dynamic collections in PDQ inventory into folders?
Well, there aren't specifically folders like there are folders for reports.
Nope.
But that's because collections can act as folders, and you can actually kind of have dummy collections as well. So if you want to, maybe you might need to zoom in on this. For example, you can see we have sub-collections here for Microsoft Office. So a collection can itself act as a folder, and sometimes you're not even going to have any filters in a collection if you want. For example, I could just say I'm going to create a new dynamic collection, or it could be a static, it doesn't matter, called Adobe. But I don't want to put any filters in here. I'll just delete that filter even.
Get rid of it.
Yep. And then I can create a folder in there, or a sub-collection.
Let's just mix them all up. Let's confuse us all.
Yeah. And then I could place my filters in here, and obviously that first one acts as a folder. So really, it's just because we wanted to eliminate confusion, but it appears that we've created some.
Yes.
Just because folders themselves can nest or contain other, collections can nest other collections.
Yep.
So that's why, really. At a first glance, it might be a little confusing, but as far as organizational purposes, you have everything you need right there. And if we were to institute a folder, then all of a sudden we'd have a folder that you couldn't put filters into, and we find that most people want to actually have some filters at some level in all of their collections. So.
Yeah. One thing that I do when I actually do this and use those to nest them is I change the icon, because then it makes it a little more apparent to me when I'm looking at the tree that, this is a folder, or acting as a folder at least. And
so you could right click to change the icon. You just right click on the collection in choice and hit new appearance or item appearance, and then you can choose from the icons that we have here. You can also I'll say okay to that. You can also do what's called display as a section header to help it stand out a little bit.
Yeah. And
then wherever you place that, it's just always going to be kind of highlighted, or it looks like it's going to be kind of highlighted, easier to stand out. So
those are fancy printers.
A collection holding nothing.
Apple printers.
I hope that answers your question.
There you go. Okay, question number 2. You guys ready for this one? It's a long one, so pay close attention. I am new to PDQ Deploy. I need to remove old Java and install the latest on several computers. The package will shut down the browser if it's running. This is not good for my users. Is there a way to run this only if no browser is running or if no user is logged on? Wendy F.
Hi, Wendy. Well, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to?
Either way, you're welcome to. I mean, I might subscribe to what Lex might typically have the approach of brute force IT in this case, and just close it and give them a warning, say, hey, this is going to close, and do it, or do it after hours, I suppose.
There are some methods. We actually had a customer say, here's some things that you can do to not have to kill the browser. It's not necessarily that you're just killing the browser. It's like you're killing if a browser has instantiated a Java session, even killing Java, we have seen numerous times in our tests over the years that trying to install Java, a new Java, will actually corrupt that Java, and just even a reboot won't take care of it. Somebody sent us in, hey, here's what I do to take care of that so that you don't have to kill the browsers. We tested that. It came out, they sent that to us the day before the last Java update. So I tested it, and I had some success, and then I had some failures as well, where it was corrupting Java. And so really the question, or the answer should be, at this point, I would schedule the Java deployments after hours, or when people aren't on. If you want, you can in PDQ if you import the package that we've got. And by the way, about uninstalling previous Java, every time a new Java is released, that package will in fact uninstall previous versions of Java for that architecture. So the 32-bit will uninstall 32-bit, etc. Let me just go to Java real quick. One thing you can do if you want, let me just go to get out of updates. I'll just grab Java 8. You can, if you want to be careful, you can set a condition on your steps to only install if no one's logged on. To do that, yeah, you'd have to do this every time a new version comes out if you're using the package that we provide. But you would come over here to like the kill IE Firefox. You'd open this up, go to the conditions, and say on the logged on state, only run if no user is logged on. Or pardon me, yeah, you'd actually do that all the way for all of these, really. Only run if no user is logged on. Of course, killing the Firefox process and stuff doesn't really matter. If no one's logged on, it's not going to be running.
It's not running.
But you would do that. You would just do that on all of these. Once again, change that to only run if no user's logged on, and then you can deploy it. And if someone's logged on, it's just not gonna install. If you do that to all of the steps, then someone's logged on. The package deployment to that computer will fail with the error message. No conditions or no steps were able to run due to conditions. Yep. So that's something you could do, Wendy. I believe your name was Wendy. Sorry, since we don't see the questions. In other words, schedule. I would, it's a very common practice. Let people know. Send an email out. Hey, Java's going out tonight. Make sure you log off of your systems. You may lose some work. Try to do it that way.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, are we ready for number 3?
Sure.
Or for our Spanish-speaking audience, pregunta número 3.
You've already lost me.
So that was the question?
I used a scam profile in the past looking for special INI files. Can I clear the found INI files under files because I do not need them anymore? Timo S.
Hi, Timo. You want to answer this one?
Sure.
All right.
A couple different ways to do this. If you delete the scanner within the scam profile or the scam profile itself, it'll actually remove the files that you've previously scanned. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be kind of pick and choosy about it, you can actually go modify the database directly.
Well, first of all, to do what you're talking about, do I have anything in applications? No, I don't. Let's go to...
You just use Windows XE and then delete it or something, or this one.
In this one, if you were to come in, if you were to delete the scan profile that grabbed these, that would remove all those files. Or if you remove the individual scanners within a profile, it would also delete them. Yep. In those cases where maybe you have a filter that grabs files that you still want, then what Kris was talking about is you could edit the database directly. You've got to be careful about doing this, but you could go to Preferences, Database, SQLite Console, and this would require that you have some SQL knowledge, but you could delete those files from this command.
It's pretty straightforward, but as Shane said, I mean, be careful. I mean, if you mess something up, you could just corrupt your database.
Yeah, or if not necessarily corrupt, but you could certainly delete data that you want there. So when you run the delete command from the SQLite console,
there's no undo.
Yeah, delete star from files where file name like whatever INI, or wildcard. You're going to delete everything.
Yay! Good times were had.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways. Really, if you have those INI files in a particular filter in a scan profile, just delete that filter. Or if it's in its own scan profile, just for that reason, delete that scan profile, and it will delete all the data that it's grabbed, unless another profile has also grabbed that same.
Good point. That's a really good point. Yep. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
All right, moving on. Question number 4 from my good friend Daryl in Florida. Daryl's awesome, by the way. Thanks for this question, Daryl. Now and then, I get the error, target computer name mismatch in PDQ Deploy. Is there a way to use inventory to proactively find these machines that get the error? Most of the time, it's a problem with trust relationship. Yours in trust, Daryl.
Yours in trust. Hi, Daryl. Sorry about that you're having this problem. Yes, it can be a trust relationship. It can also be a DNS issue, and sometimes the DNS issue isn't as easily detectable as you would think. I mean, you run an NS lookup against that computer, and you see, oh yeah, it resolves to the right IP address. But doing a reverse lookup, often you'll find that there's another machine as well that has that. And so that's where that name mismatch can come from, or a trust relationship. So if you want to be proactive, as you said, you could create a collection that under the computer table, you would find a scan, where is that? Scan error. That's the scan error, yeah. Or we state status. I think it's status. I think it's going to be error. Actually,
be error.
So the scan error contains something like mismatch. That should probably take care of it. And then now I don't think we have any computers that fit this, but
we'll find out.
Yeah. If you had them, they would probably show up right in here, and that's a way that you could at least clump them together and say, oh, look at that collection. These computers kind of need to be touched. Yeah. So that's I would filter off the scan error. Contains mismatch. How's that?
Also PowerShell. Just throwing that out there because you guys were expecting it. Just
okay. So no.
For the other,
I need a for instance.
For the other side of the equation, where it actually is an issue with the extra trust relationship with your machine because of the machine account's password has kind of missynced up. Say you reverted a snapshot. You just imaged a computer.
By missynced up, you mean it's out of sync.
That.
Well, you really are filling in for Lex quite well.
Darn it. Anyway, with that, if you have issues with that, you can use netdom to reset the password, or PowerShell, which the commandment I believe is reset computer password, reset computer name password or something.
I'd recommend PowerShell only because netdom is only available if you've installed the RSAT on that target computer. It's not just as simple as taking the netdom.exe and copying it out to another machine. There's some libraries that it needs, so you need to actually have RSAT installed and the Active Directory tools enabled. So, I smell a PowerShell. Well, A, I smell.
Sorry.
And then B, I smell a PowerShell blog. I'd like you to write that up.
Okay.
And Annie, make a note of that so that he can, a blog showing how you can reset the machine password with Active Directory, so they don't have to go out there and remove it from the domain and then add it again.
Right, which is always a hassle. Which, by the way, to find those in PowerShell, if you use the commandlet for scanning your event log, either the older get event log or the one that supports all the newer modern event logs, the get win event. If you search in your, I forget which one it is, if it's the application of the system, you can look for event 5723, I believe, which will actually give you the record that you're actually having an issue with those. And if you filter on those, then you should actually get the results and then actually just do the reset computer name based off that. So anyway, we'll do it in blog or something.
And by the way, Ian Lenahan on the chat said that scan error contains mismatch does work. So
sweet,
we were right.
Bonus.
We were bouncing around a little bit, so maybe we were accidentally right.
Can you smell what Kris is cooking? Oh yes.
I can smell everything about Kris right now.
He's picking up what I'm putting down.
Our next question is from repeat offender, the lovely and talented Monica K. When a heartbeat deployment fails on a target machine because it goes offline after the deployment starts, will it restart the next time the computer comes online?
Most likely, yes. It does depend on the conditions that caused it to go off in the first place. So let's say that you've got a collection that shows machines that don't have the latest Firefox, and this machine is in that collection. The heartbeat status or the heartbeat gets kicked off the deployment, but they turn off the computer. Then yes, because those conditions never would have changed in that collection. And even if they did, also even if you say stop deploying to computers once they succeed, that computer never succeeded. That's an option in the schedule. So chances are most likely yes that it would. It's just because the next time that computer comes on and does a heartbeat, inventory is going to tell deploy, hey, this machine came on, is there anything that it's missing? And, oh yes, it still hasn't successfully received Firefox or whatever. So if you're seeing different behavior, Monica, I think that was, if you're seeing different behavior, let us know, send an email into support or post on the forums and just say, hey, it doesn't appear to be kicking off again, and here are the conditions that cause it to kick off. In other words, it's a member of this collection, and here are the filters of that collection. So,
the next question from DJ Legend, Jumpin' Johnny P, everybody. What are some of the most common and problematic mistakes that a user of both Deploy and Inventory make?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, for Deploy, I'll give one answer, you give one answer.
Sure.
For Deploy, especially the new users, they often forget to put command line parameters. This can become critical when you're talking about deploying something from an EXE, not an MSI. So they'll just grab, like, to use the Firefox example, they'll grab the Firefox EXE and they'll build a package. They've got that setup EXE as the install file, but they don't have any parameters. And they'll say, hey, it's timing out after an hour. What's going on? This sucks. Why doesn't this work? Well, you've got to make your deployment silent. So for deploy, it would be that. Do you want to?
In general, for me, one of the things that I've seen a bunch is credentials with the background servers versus the actual credentials of both applications. Because a lot of times we'll see a credential for the background service be a local administrator, which doesn't have access to anything over the network. And so when they're trying to do anything with Deploy or Inventory, it will fail. Unless they have the associated same local admin and password on those machines.
Yep.
So that's a very common one we see.
Like here's one. I could do a deploy. I think we have the computer Fletch still. I'm going to deploy to a computer called Fletch. Now Fletch is not a member of the domain, but notice the credentials that I'm using are a domain, the Deadwood domain credentials, and I'll deploy it, and it will fail because, in this case, the user Quintana. Little call out to the Big Lebowski fans out there. Quintana doesn't have rights on Fletch, and so it will fail with an access is denied, unrecognized username, password. So you'd have to actually change that particular deployment to use a different set of credentials. So I believe we've got. If we don't, I'll hurry and check. Do we? No. You would have to add credentials. So for computers that aren't on the domain, hopefully you would have like a common local admin password. So we've got Vincent. So notice that domain field is blank.
Yep.
So that means it's going to be a local machine. You could also put a dot there if you want. Hopefully Fletch is even online.
Still exists. Okay, good.
All right. So this should have failed. Yep, the username group. So now I'm going to deploy this, but I'm going to change those credentials to Vincent. And we'll do Fletch, because I didn't do a redeploy. And that should work. Yeah. But here's another example where people will mess up. Okay, so I've got this deployment running to Fletch, and now I'm going to go deploy to regular domain machines. It remembers the last set of credentials that you had. So the next time you do a deployment, you're going to need to change that back.
Yep.
All right. So that's.
If I had a nickel for every time I did that,
right?
I'd have a lot of nickels.
I suck at typing. There we go.
And I am speaking, so it's kind of a good match.
So we work well together.
Hopefully, carrots.
Yeah. Hopefully. Well, okay. So really quick, that was on deploy. Now on inventory. Well, another issue I have with deploy, by the way, are people that just take a package, like they'll import Java, and they'll just blast it out to all computers, even if those computers have the latest Java. Yep. I really like to see people use a little bit more intelligence in their deployments and choosing targets, and that's where something like PDQ Inventory, or if you use SpiceWorks, have appropriate containers. These are machines that have Java, but not the latest version. These are machines that don't have Firefox, and so I want to get this out. Have some intelligence in your targets. Now, as far as inventory, I'll go to a customer site or I'll do some training online, and I'll see that somebody has, series like 4,500 computers, but they've only got like 2,300 that are that are actual real computers. The rest are just clutter from Active Directory, and they're never going to exist again. They're not deleted from Active Directory. They're just still out there. And so you look at their inventory, and it's just nothing but errors on their scans. And these machines haven't been scanned successfully since, March of 15 or something. Cleaning up Active Directory, cleaning up your inventory. There are ways you can do that. We have so many videos out there on that. That's another annoyance.
Piggybacking on that, use AD sync, period.
In the PDQ inventory.
Yeah, in inventory, if you're actually in an Active Directory environment, use it, please. Yeah, you're going to have a much better time.
But then again, if you use AD sync and you don't clean up your Active Directory, there are still things that you can do, like maybe you can disable that computer in Active Directory, or you can move it to a collection and then not sync an OU and not sync that OU. Stuff like that. Just try to clean it up.
Cool.
All right, we've got a related question from Mixmaster Matt. Dear Shane and Kris, what is one of the most underutilized features of Deploy and Inventory?
Yeah, it's funny because actually I just got a blog I'm getting ready to put out, and I promise I'll get that done today, Annie. I was in Philadelphia recently, and the customer asked me that question. Say, what do you wish people would use the most in your products that they don't use? Well, for my answer, I'm not gonna. You can have your own. For Deploy,
Thanks.
It's auto deployment. We find so many customers that need to install packages that are in the package library, like Java, like Adobe Flash. They want them on all or most of their computers. They want to keep them up to date, but they don't utilize auto deployment. We have several webcasts and a lot of videos on that. And it's not just when you say, I'm going to auto deploy Flash, doesn't mean that the second Flash comes out, all your computers are going to get it. No, you can still have some intelligence and some control of, I'm going to give me a 1 week after it's been released before this automatically starts to deploy this new version. Have some testing time or whatever. So auto deployment, and then custom tools, which this forthcoming blog is about for me on inventory. Custom tools, and that is, as admins, we all have our favorite utilities. We have our favorite remote control tools, command lines, etc. And so many, our own favorite scripts that we built.
Yeah.
These things, so many of these things can actually be integrated into PDQ Inventory using what's called custom tools. So maybe you've seen inventory where we've got the ability to go out to a computer and say, go to my tools, say remote desktop or VNC, but maybe they use Dameware to do remote control. Did you know that you can integrate Dameware in the inventory so that when you could have a tool here that says open a Dameware remote control session or IntelliAdmin, whatever remote control tool you want. As long as whatever utility you're using has a command line, for the most part, you can, command line ability, you can integrate it here. And the custom tools, please go out to our videos, select custom tools, and see how to do that. But it's in preferences, you'll see custom tools right there where you can build your own. So what about you, man?
Okay, number one, PDQ Deploy, since we had a new step for it, is PowerShell. I'm sure you guys were expecting it. Use PowerShell. It can do so much of your job and more. You can automate yourself out of a job. It's great. So,
did you hear that story? It came out on, I saw Slashdot posted it. There was a developer who posted, that he had automated his job. For 6 years, he had automated all of his job, and it took just a few months to do. And so for the last 6 years, he just had these background scripts, probably a cron job or something, that took care of what he needed. And then when he got laid off, he realized, I can't program anymore. I forgot.
Yeah, I did actually see that. It was pretty funny. But in Deploy, we have a PowerShell step now where you can actually put your stuff directly in there if you don't want to save it as a script, or you can actually run a PowerShell script. Those are powerful. What you can do in .NET, basically you can do in PowerShell. So you can get creative. We'll have blogs that we'll write. We can have more examples of this, but go and check out our blog already. I have great examples that use this already. In addition to that, I was actually going to use custom tools for inventory because I think it is seriously the most underutilized. Mm-hmm. If it has a command line interface, if you can throw in some arguments that for even a script, say PowerShell, that accepts parameters, you can do it directly with your targets here. You can do it with whatever you'd like. I think previously in another webcast, we actually showed using SSH for machines in inventory that weren't scannable, but we knew they were Unix machines, and so you could just SSH into them using PuTTY or something.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of cool
there.
stuff.
You know, really quick, Kelly, there's a on the chat, somebody just wrote, a guy named Kris said, hey, Admin Arsenal, you should try to help Tim and others in this webcast. Now, since I'm talking to you and doing this, I'm not sure what the question was, but I think Tim was saying that he was hoping, I saw one mention where Tim said, I was hoping the error code could help tell me where the problem was. I'd like to know what that error code was. I'm sorry that I'm not following this. If you're talking about an error code in PDQ Deploy, so you deploy an application. For example, here's one that comes up quite often: Autodesk, AutoCAD products. You make a deployment, comes back with an error 259. Now, when you're talking about error codes in PDQ Deploy, these come from the vendor. Now, some error codes are uniform. If somebody has an MSI, then those conform to the Microsoft installer error code. So we know that 3010, for example, is an error code that usually is fine. It means this was successful. You need to reboot though. But other times we'll have someone say, hey, I've got this weird error code like the 259 in AutoCAD. What does that mean? Well, you need to talk to the vendor about that. What did you say, Kelly?
We've got his error code. It says, why do I get the error package return error code 21463684339?
That looks like a Microsoft, probably Microsoft Office. It could be an Internet Explorer, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Office. That is, if you were going to search that in Google, now if you're going to search it in Google with a minus sign in front of it, because this is one of those negative error codes, put quotes around it, because in Google parlance, dash, a minus before that means show me everything that doesn't have this. So put quotes around it, or you can actually just remove the minus and search for that, and you'll probably find it. That's probably a Microsoft Office error code that says something like a prerequisite wasn't met. But to get back to my point, this is the vendor. All we do in PDQ Deploy, we kick off your install file, and then we wait to see what return code, also known as an error code, is returned. And once that's returned, we just spit that out. And like I say, because this is per vendor, and often per vendor per product, we don't know all of them. That's a labyrinth. So all we're saying is, this returned an error code that you did not have marked as one that would constitute a success. If you notice in Deploy, anytime you have an install step, or actually pretty much any step, I'm going to just click a new install, we automatically throw in 0, 1641, and 3010. So what this is saying is you got a code that was not in this success codes, therefore it's going to be constituted as a failure. Yep. But we don't know what those are necessarily. So I'm sorry. I would Google it. That just at a glance, that looks like it's a Microsoft one.
Seems like it.
Yeah, it looks like it's more like a Microsoft Office one.
Yep, one of the sub products or something.
All right. So I guess we're going to wrap it up. Hey, you guys, thanks for your questions. Sorry that they weren't able to display. We'll figure out what the hell's going on and try and remedy that, or we'll just mercilessly beat Kelly.
That's
I enjoy that.
That's an
Come
option.
on.
That's an option that's always on the table.
well, that's usually what Fridays are reserved for. So,
Hey, everybody, thanks. We'll see you next week. We'll talk to you later.
indeed. Ciao.